My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is, if getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our edition of, what are we going to call it? We're still out. The jury is still out on what name our show would be called. Is it going to be The Red Wine Gets Hammered, or is it going to be Hammered in Wine? I am the luckiest woman in the entire planet right now because, oh my God, I'm like bowing at his feet because Hammy is my co-host tonight. Oh my God, thank goodness he's not wearing a skirt. Let's just put that out there, because if I'm at his feet, we don't want to look up. Anyhow, Hammy, how are you doing tonight?
That is an appropriate intro. Mostly.
And how are you?
I am doing fine. How about you?
I'm doing absolutely wonderful. It was sunny out. It's beautiful. It was in the 60s, and I was like, wow, I think winter's finally gone. Not for Jody, because she had snow the other day, but Jody's not with us tonight because she is actually finally able to, I believe, watch Cheer for her daughter. So I'm sure she should probably be on our show with us tonight, but she's not, so we'll let her slide on this evening. So anyways, I'm sure we have plenty to rant about. One of the things was, I'm sure everybody's wondering where Kamala is when it comes to the border. I know that there's a count on Fox News that's 14 days and counting, I believe.
She has disappeared.
She's got to have her heels up somewhere, I'm sure.
Yeah, I bet.
But I mean, do you find this common when, vice presidents are given, something to take over and run? We had Mike Pence when it came to, COVID. The COVID. And I don't know if Joe Biden ever did anything. Oh, wait, it was Ukraine. How can we ever forget that?
Yes, he did Ukraine.
He did a great job with that. He made a lot of money with that too, I'm sure. And isn't this awful? For whatever reason, I am like completely blank. Cheney, what did Cheney want? Oh, the Iraq War. Okay.
Yeah. So,
where's Kamala?
Hunting trips. I don't. And this is the strange part. This whole business with her supposedly, going to be taking an active role in, the border not crisis, and investigating and finding what's going on and all these other kinds of things, and she literally disappears. And I only thing I can think of is that it is that damn bad that she is trying to avoid being associated with it.
I was wondering if because when someone what was it, the day after they said, "Oh, are you going to be going down to the border?" and she laughed out loud and said, "Not today." Are they thinking that she is an absolute public relations disaster? That literally she laughs at inappropriate times. The Biden administration is already, starting to pull crappy because they are crappy. But I think she's an absolute nightmare. And they probably don't want her out there because they're going to have to do more cleanup if she opens up her mouth and speaks or laughs.
Yeah, I mean, that's possible. Sure. It is this administration across the board is just kind of blows your mind from the entire aspect of, not doing press conferences, not taking questions, or only taking ones that they've already screened and, written down the answers for. It is one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen. Of course, we saw it coming, right? We saw it back in the entire, lead up to the entire election. This was the most bizarre election in the world, where you had the primary candidate from one of the major parties just essentially sit it out
in his basement.
Yeah, well, because they knew, and this is why it works. This is why it's working for them. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to say anything because they have an entire propaganda arm in the MSM who is someone to sit there and basically say whatever it is. And I was thinking for a while, it's, they're going to say whatever it is that, Joe Biden would do or whatever in the first place. That's not it. They're driving the narrative.
Oh, yes.
So whatever these liberal networks are saying, that's just kind of driving the narrative. There is no reason for Joe Biden or Camel Toe Harris to get out there and say anything. They don't have to. It wouldn't matter anyways, because they're not, the ones coming up with the narrative in the first place.
Interestingly enough,
Kamala might actually be a little more involved.
A lot of it, though, started, we all remember back during the lovely 8 years of Obama, how they would call in the press, or they'd feed the press the information and the narrative that they wanted. And of course, reading, the WikiLeaks and reading all the John Podesta emails, which, yes, I did that because I was bored one day and I was just shocked at the narratives that he would come up with. It's like they send it out to this entire network. They even had celebrities that they would say, all right, this is what she needs to say, and this person and this person and this person. It's this whole network that they had of, getting, and you can see that, for example, when you're on Twitter, when it comes to all the reporters and Democrats or whatever, how they're all asking the same exact question or they're making the same exact comment and the words are all the same. And it's like, do they really think we're that stupid? It's all coordinated. And I think that's where the right has not caught up to them on that. Of course, it does have its drawbacks because people look at it and they're like, really? How many other people are going to sit there and say, oh, when it came to Donald Trump's hair was out of place. Right? I just saw that 8,500 times from all other people. So, I think you're right. I mean, there is no press conferences. There doesn't have to be.
We have the most. I will tell you. I'm convinced of this. We have the most unelected government in place right now that we ever have in the history of America. The Joe Biden and Kamala were elected technically to their offices, but I don't believe for a second, and this is not conspiratorial. I just don't believe for a second that they're the ones that are actually calling the shots. There's no need to have Joe Biden go out there and stumble around potentially answering a question that he knows nothing about or trying to answer a question he knows nothing about because he's not involved in making the decisions in the first place. There are some things that I think he brings to it that, he goes along with. But I think they are very, very, very reliant on other groups in the White House that were not elected, names that most people don't even know. Who are mostly calling the shots. We saw that before the election. We know what was going on. There were complaints from inside the Biden campaign prior to the election talking about Obama acolytes that happened to be part or came in for the kind of the turnover aspect, who were now suddenly calling the shots on positions, on who was doing what, what the president was going to do in his first 100 days. And there were people that had been part of the Biden campaign prior to that were very upset about this. So we know that aspect is there. I think it's just far more ingrained into the actual power structure than we've traditionally had. And that's just that's not what Americans are used to. We understand that presidents always have, their cabinet. We understand that presidents always have advisors, and that not all of those people are necessarily known or vetted by, the Senate or even the press for that matter.
Well, you remember Valerie Jarrett. I mean, she was literally one of the most hated women in the country because, when it came to Iran, I mean, we know she was behind the whole agreement with Iran. That was her pushing that. That people were said, how do you take a junior senator from Illinois and all of a sudden he's president and calling all the shots? It doesn't make sense. How do you take a guy with dementia and all of a sudden he's president and running the country? I mean, you knew when it came to Donald Trump, he actually was hands-on running the country. He didn't, God knows he fired his cabinet on his whim, but he still was running the country until. And
it was definitely what Donald Trump wanted was what was being put out there. And you either went along with it or you were, eventually
fired.
He did. Trump came from this is probably his biggest weakness that I think he didn't necessarily understand when he became president was he came from a corporate world where the CEO's rule is law. And if you have someone who's working for you who either isn't cutting it or they're not following through or they're not carrying out your orders and expectations, you just fire them and you hire the next person. I think he was a little flummoxed when he came into the White House. He hired all these people that he thought were going to be of like mind with him. Of the same ilk and would follow their orders without any question, only to discover that there were quite a few of them that were in there that had ulterior motives, and he was in a position of not being able to just automatically go, okay, you're fired, because as soon as he did, he got beat up by the press, or he wasn't able to, right? Because you can't just fire some people, and you can't just go, okay, you over there in the State Department, you're fired. And I think that was a tough lesson for him to learn, especially on the political side of it, that these people are not going to come in and automatically, as much as they may say they're on your side, you're hiring them and that they believe everything you believe, that you're hiring them. That's not the same as the corporate world. They have their own political agendas. In the case of Biden here, I think it's exactly the opposite. I think he's there. He was the least concerning person for the Democrats to be able to run in order for this backroom cabal to be able to pull off their own coup, which I believe it is a coup, in using the seat of the presidency to carry out their own agenda without having to actually make that agenda known to the American people during an election.
And that is completely, because you take the two candidates that everybody started in New Hampshire. Well, the two bottom candidates was Kamala and Biden. I mean, we all remember Biden running off in the middle of the night because he did terrible here. She quit, I think, before they even did the election in New Hampshire. That's how bad she was. That's how horrible. She didn't relate to anybody in the state. She didn't relate to anybody in the other states. And I know they're going to be like, oh, it's because, it's all a white state. No, it's not. There's one thing about New Hampshire. Yeah, New Hampshire might be predominantly white. But New Hampshire is where the candidates actually get out and they see the people from all different walks of life when it comes to, socioeconomics. And they actually have to sit down with the people and talk with them and listen to them, where a lot of the other states, they don't bother to do that. And granted, New Hampshire sometimes doesn't sit there and, vote the way that they should. But in this case, you have Kamala and Biden. You're right. The people that are running it are the unelected bureaucrats or the czars, because we're pretty sure the czars are going to be coming back, right? Didn't he already say he was going to be naming some czars? For Democrats that hate the freaking Russians as much as they do, why they want to call them czars, I don't know. You would think there would be any other name but czar.
Mm.
But you're right. It is really scary because you don't know what they have planned. Well, we do know what they have planned. We know that they want to move this to socialism, communism, somewhere in between. That is their goal. Their goal is to have an elite group of people, unnamed, unseen, running the country, making the decisions for all of us. And what they don't take into account is we don't want that. Well, at least 50% of the country, probably more than 50% of the country doesn't want it. I mean, what are you seeing in Virginia? Are people getting really sick of the Democrats?
Oh, yeah, but who's really standing up to them? This is America has gotten so soft, and we are literally at a breaking point right this second, because we're either going to take advantage of the current situation that we're in and use it as a platform to stand up to these socialists, these communists, these dictators, or we're going to fold and we're going to simply walk away from our constitutional rights and allow them to use this experiment that has gone on over the last year to run roughshod over Americans forever. You already see this. Look at what happened in Georgia. We had an election down there in Georgia. Georgia had an election. Georgia elected their House. Georgia elected their Senate. Georgia elected their governor. After this past election, this past year, they decided there were some issues that needed to be addressed. So they addressed those issues, and they addressed them in a fairly mild manner.
Right.
And with, plenty of, and we're trying to make as many, as possible, as much as possible, anybody can vote, and we're going to put some lock boxes out there. We're going to do all these other things that I'm sure most Republicans didn't even agree with.
But there's going to be controls.
And yet they were called, Jim Crow.
Yeah.
They're being beaten up. Why is anybody really looking at that and saying these are terrible laws that they've put in place, that these election rules that they're putting in place are horrendous compared to other states? No one's making that. No one's making that point. No one's looking at other states, and the MSM isn't looking at it and saying, oh my, we ran a check of all the states and we ranked Georgia 48th out of 50 in terms of freedom of elections. No, they're not doing that because they know if they do that, it won't work out for them. This has nothing to do with the laws that Georgia passed. It has everything to do with the fact that Democrats are now eyeing everything that happened over the last year as a plan, how to permanently put these policies of control in place. And
I think
something that happens in Georgia is pushing back against that, and that's why it's getting the press that it's getting right now.
And the thing too is what's interesting is they're focusing so much on Georgia, yet they're doing the same thing in Pennsylvania. They're doing the same thing in Michigan. They're doing the same thing in Wisconsin. All of those swing states, Arizona, they are all, because they're all Republican-held House and Senate, are putting in laws that are going to stop anything from what happened before happening again. And it's like, why aren't they focusing on those other states? Why particularly Georgia?
It's an easy one, and they feel like they've made some gains in Georgia. They feel like it's possibly a blue pickup in general. They recognize that the last election they were actually, obviously able to swing enough votes in there for Biden to win. They were able to pick up the Senate seats. They're well aware that a lot of what happened around that had everything to do with Trump, had everything to do with COVID, had everything to do with fear, had everything to do with, being able to take advantage of mail-in voting and all these other kinds of things. They're dead scared that if they lose Georgia in 2 years, right, in 2022, right, in the next election, that is going to prove that the only way they won before was by trying to game the system. And the other states are going to look at that and they're going to go, oh, that's what we need to do to make sure the Democrats aren't allowed to game the system again.
And that's exactly what they're doing in the other states.
Other states are doing it. Others will do it even more if Georgia does. If it ends up, of course, now the left is going to say, well, if Democrats take back, if Republicans take back the Senate seats from Georgia, and Stacey Abrams is beaten again, they're going to say that, that is all, manipulation of the ballots by Republicans. But other red states are certainly going to be looking at that and going, we came either close to losing or we lost the election because we kowtowed to this messaging from Democrats saying that we had to have mail-in voting and all this other kind of stuff, and they're going to say no. That leaves too much to question, and they're going to change it. So they're deathly afraid that they will lose elections over things that are perfectly fair.
I found it completely interesting that the in New Hampshire, for example, we went completely red. We always flip-flop back and forth, usually purple, sometimes blue. It just depends on, the mood of the people. But we went completely red with the exception of the federal offices. There's literally almost a supermajority. Now, Sununu in the last election was the only Republican in 2018 that won as governor. Everybody else was blue. And now, and that includes the House and the state House and the state Senate. Now, everything, even the executive council, everything went red. And people are just like, how did everything go red at the local and state level, but not the federal level? And it just didn't really make a lot of sense. Some people loved Trump, some people didn't. Some voted for that Vernon, whatever that guy is. He's usually on the ballot every single year. But I found it really interesting because in my area, Trump won, 2-1. So didn't all the other state and the candidates. But then I'm listening to what some of these state candidates, and I'm just like, you guys are going to make us lose again. Mm-hmm. They either go too far or they don't do enough, and they're like Paul Ryan. I blame Paul Ryan for a lot of stuff. I think he was terrible. He just rolled over, and then I'm hearing Boner's name. John Boner is coming back. I always call him John Boner. I can't say it. He's coming back, opening up his mouth. I really didn't listen to what he was saying, but all I know is I caught Hannity the other night, and he was having a meltdown over him, and he rolled over as well. And Mitch McConnell rolled over when it came to the whole, they need to realize that Donald Trump is not going anywhere. Whether he's going to run again is questionable. If he does, great. If he doesn't, and there's a great candidate, fine. But he changed the modern Republican Party.
Sure, it was never about Donald Trump. That the left hated so much. It was that they were suddenly getting a different tone from the Republican. It's like the battered wife syndrome, right?
Yes.
The husband suddenly in shock when she picks up a gun and shoots him. Or picks up a baseball bat, hits him over the head. She's never done that before. Well, yeah. And this is what the left it feared the most. This is what they hate the most about Donald Trump. Had nothing to do with Trump himself. Had everything to do with suddenly having a Republican that was not in the play along, get along side of things. And look, Republicans have always kind of prided themselves on being, we're not the mean guys, right? When we're in office, we're not going to XYZ, right? We're not going to run roughshod over everybody. We're not going to break the filibuster. We're not going to do all these things. And they expect that Democrats are going to play that same game, and they never do, right?
No.
Democrats never do.
So meanwhile, you have the Republicans that are like saying, what the living hell are you guys doing? You need to kick their ass. Do something. I mean, how many opportunities did the House when we had both the House and the Senate? How many opportunities got passed?
No, the border wall. The border wall is the easiest one to think of. But I will say this: I think during that same time period, that you still had, especially in that first year or so, you still had a lot of Republicans that were very much on the fence, no pun intended, on the wall.
Yes.
About whether or not they even, agreed with Trump, thought that Trump was going to actually follow through on his policies, and whether or not they wanted to be aligned with him. And look, me, and I was certainly in that gang back then. I was I don't believe this guy. I just didn't believe him. And I think there were a lot of people that were like that, including a lot of Republicans that were in power. So, yes, they did squander it. I think somewhat I get it, at least initially in the first 6 months or so. But somewhere in there, they should have definitely caught on. And I think they were very afraid, by the way, they could have passed a border wall legislation very easily. I think they were afraid of the fact that the press would automatically come back and go, well, Donald Trump said that Mexico was going to pay for it, and now you're paying for it. You lied to the American people. And they were so afraid of that. They were so afraid of that they lost the House and Senate.
You hear that Joe Biden's now saying, well, maybe the wall's not so bad. Really? Because you basically extended an open invitation.
So what he's saying, and this is interesting, what they're saying right now, I think what's happening is that they're recognizing that, we're screwed, right? We can't keep this a secret forever. The story is out. We have, 780% capacity of these kids, far more kids in cages than Trump ever had. It's going to get to the point where even the press is not going to be able to protect us. The American people are going to see it, and they're going to know that we're full of crap. And so what he has said very carefully, what Psaki said yesterday very carefully was, we're not building the wall. But it just so happens that there are some contracts that are already in place that have already been paid for. It would actually cost us more to take those things out of there. We have to allow these contracts. They're just continuing along until we're able to make a change there. They'll conveniently make the change when the wall's finished being built. But yeah, you're absolutely correct. They recognize that they need the wall, because it's not even for them and all the stuff that they want to do, and being driven by policies from AOC and others, that it's untenable for them. They cannot continue to do it. That the American people will push back,
and that's already beginning. I mean, people are like, the numbers have shifted, and I always question the numbers in the first place. But, people have, especially with COVID and allowing anybody to come in after, you have some states that are still shut down and you're letting people in. So, there's that concern where it's they're being very hypocritical.
Sure.
And you're giving, and I know we're not even supposed to call them illegal aliens anymore, but I will call them illegal aliens because they are illegal. And you're giving them, putting them in hotels while we have, homeless that are sleeping on the streets out in California. And you got these illegal immigrants that are in hotels.
Well, sure.
Doesn't make sense.
Americans that got their $1,400 checks.
Yes.
But if you extrapolated out how much they were spending per family for these illegal aliens to be in hotels, it was like $70,000 per family. But you got your $1,400 check. Be sure to spend it on Amazon.
My poor daughter didn't even get a $1,400 check. She was like, "Mom, nope, sorry, Gabby, you don't get anything." But you're right. We're spending all this money to house them, and we have homeless that are all over the streets. And let's talk about Seattle with the parents that are trying to send their kids back to school full time, and you got the homeless camped out on school property. How can you feel secure, knowing that you could look out the window and see somebody shooting up or get killed or get assaulted?
Worse yet, I've heard, quite a few people say stuff like that. Look at the homeless over there. Sort of stuff. I'm more concerned about them coming over into the freaking school. I don't care if you've got a fence or a gate there. They can
exactly
figure out a way to get in. But I was saying earlier, I think that actually the most appropriate way for any parents or teachers that are really concerned about this is they should take their classes outside, over there right next to the homeless shelter, and they should conduct class right there, because they can sit there, and when Johnny's not paying attention, hey, Johnny, you're not paying attention to math? This is where you're going to end up.
Oh, God.
Look, Johnny, that's your tent over there. What's 2 times 5, Johnny? What's 2 times 5? Go to your tent.
That's what do they call that? Scare tactics or
yes, absolutely.
No.
Absolutely.
You're scared straight. That's right. Yep. That's what it was. Oh, my God.
You could have some of the homeless people come over and chat with them.
But think about it. They're on school property. That they have their camps on the actual school property. So why didn't Seattle say, get off? Why all of a sudden do we have... I don't know.
I've given up a long time ago trying to figure out, Washington and Oregon's politics, Seattle's politics, Portland's politics. I don't get it. I'm not sure what is. I've lost track somewhere along the way. Look, for years I always said, what is it that Democrats are after? Well, they're after, obviously at the end of the day they want to dismantle any form of moral underpinnings, moral foundations to our country. Okay, great. They've achieved that. They achieved that long ago. So now what are they trying to do? What do they gain by having tents filled with people shooting up drugs and rape and whatever else goes, filthy sanitation and everything else. I don't know what they gain anymore. I'm not sure what they gain anymore. Is there something that they actually honestly believe that this is driving towards some, nirvana that they believe can possibly exist at some point in the future if they just let it ride long enough? I have no idea any longer what they're even driving to.
Yeah, it's
insanity now.
I mean, you look at, of course, when was it Chris Ray FBI again says that Antifa is nothing more than an ideology. It's not. It's not. And
But
for
I
them to
don't know
continue
what
to
their-
say
I don't know
that,
what their goals any longer. They have achieved pretty much all the goals I really looked at. I mean, short of legalizing, the pedophiles, or maybe their ultimate goal is mandating pedophiles. I don't know.
you know what? That movement is already starting in the UK and coming to a state near you.
But that's pretty much it. That's the end of it. I don't know what else there is after that. Mandated gangbangs of children or something. I don't know what their next thing is that they want to do, because they have demoralized the country. I guess, honestly, what would it be? While they have removed a lot of the moral foundation of this country, there is still a remnant of the country that they cannot control. And so that's got to be the only thing left over now.
Your religious institutions.
Well, your religious institutions, but just people in general. They have not gotten to the point yet where they can shut down complete free speech, although they're getting close. They haven't gotten to the point yet where they can shut down, religion, whatever. So that's got to be it. I mean, that's the only next thing. What that has to do with tent cities in the middle of a schoolyard, I have no idea. But
they want to take what is considered a normal society that is considered normal, a home, a roof over your head, family, and they want to, because there are people out there that don't have that, they want everybody to be equal. So if there are people out there,
they don't. They don't really want. I disagree with you a little bit here. They don't want everybody to be equal.
Dare you disagree with me?
You're just not enlightened enough. Saying they want everybody to be equal, saying they want everyone to have equality, is not the same as actually wanting equality. Look, the communism was built on the idea of everyone being equal, but definitely some were more equal than others. And power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. And if you look at Russia, you look at China, you look at any other communist country, the leaders eventually are 100% corrupt, and they have to be corrupt to completely take power as well. And in the end, it is still just them. It's about them. They have the power, they have the luxury, they have the money, they have the all the great things in life. Screw all the little people. It becomes a case of staying in power at that point.
And
so you
don't.
Hammy,
Well, I was going to say, you don't see that in the Democrats?
well, okay, so, Hammy, if I can interject just for a moment, and she love it when the producer does that, and she's not supposed to be talking. So, you leapfrogged over the answer to your question. Your question is basically, what are they planning? What could they possibly do next or want to do next? And you leapfrogged kind of over communism. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to have an end game. If their game is just whether they even know it or not, just to weaken us just enough for China to just kind of walk through the door that they've opened. Okay, now that I put that out there.
Unless they think, what are those alien movies that you have at times? It's like the one human being that allowed the aliens to invade the world because they thought they were going to be the ones that were still allowed to stay in power or something. Unless they think that they are going to be the anointed ones in some Chinese takeover or something. I think that's pretty long term down the road. Even a total idea of communism in the United States is
I think they believe in the cause. I think they totally believe in the cause. I think they think that we should be a Marxist nation.
Sure. I mean, they do, because they've bought into the ideology that every Marxist has bought into until they actually have to live it.
Exactly.
It's okay for everybody else to live,
but they never will. They believe that if they are the enlightened ones, that they are the ones in power, that they would never actually have to live that. So, yeah, I guess it does answer the question. We know what ultimately they want. I guess what I look at, I go, what is it they're trying to do by having a schoolyard full of vagrants in tents and filthy conditions? I don't know how that exactly advances the cause. I don't know. It's weird.
And it is that aspect of it is really, it is strange. And that's, maybe once that puzzle piece is figured out, all the things that they're doing, it's well, obviously it's not the norm. I don't remember any of this type of stuff ever happening. We suspected part of it when Obama was there, but it became blatant the minute the hysteria. And I'm sure everybody asked the same question when the night Trump was elected, and then all the hysteria and all, people saying, I need to go see a psychologist, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, this is an election. What is going on here? And I think we all questioned, why did they have that type of reaction? What actually, I think the key would be, what actually did they have planned if Hillary had won the presidency? And I think that is a big key to what is going on now, because there had to have been a reason why so many of them.
Because every single Democrat president since Roosevelt has added a little more in terms of removal of rights, removal of democracy, increasing the size of government, taking on more and more debt. And when I'm talking about debt here, I'm not talking about foreign wars. I'm talking about taking on debt of, in increasing the number of people, what you're giving them, and whatever else. Every single one has done that. They have been able to slowly progress their agenda through these series of presidents, and it's not that big of a deal if it takes a few years off and a Republican comes in and Republicans get comfortable again, and then they don't turn out for the next election because they weren't paying attention, and a Democrat gets in and then they get to advance it a little bit more. And so that's it. You take almost any subject, any political subject, and look at how they've sort of progressed it, even within their own terms in office, where they'll say one thing at the beginning and another thing by the end of that office. They advance those little agendas just a little bit at a time. So what happened with Trump was they suddenly realized that the Republicans weren't just going to kind of play along a little bit through their term in office, that they needed to take advantage as soon as they got in power of doing as much as quickly as they possibly could, because this is a group of people that got caught broadside by what happened in 2020 and still believe that the election wasn't completely valid, whether you buy it or not. There's a group of people obviously that do, and they know those people are going to come out in force starting in 2022. And so there are no holds barred right now. I saw the same thing happen here in Virginia, just a year and a half ago when we had our last election. We got one this year. And as soon as they got in power, they knew that they barely had it. They had the Senate by like a seat. They had the House by a couple of seats. And they had the governorship. And they were like, we are definitely taking advantage of this. And that's where they are. But that was influenced quite a bit by the fact that Trump was already in office. So that's why they viewed him the way they did, and that's why they're acting the way they are now.
Because 2018, New Hampshire, the House and Senate went blue, the state, whatever, and it just, they flip-flop back and forth. But I'll tell you that Maggie Hassan her polling numbers are hideous right now. I don't think she has a chance in hell of winning. And what's interesting is the people that are fleeing all of the states like Michigan and New York and even Massachusetts, they're all coming up here to New Hampshire. I mean, right now, if I put my house on the market, there'd be a huge bidding war. That's how crazy. People are buying houses sight unseen just to get out of their states.
Yeah, but they're bringing their crappy politics with them.
Maybe yes or no. I don't know, because
I think they are. I think they get in their states and they go, well, this isn't the Democratic Party I signed up for. I mean, I'm still all in favor of abortion, and I'm still all in favor of, a lot of this, a lot of the ideology, but I'm not in favor of this craziness that they have. Right? And, I'm a pro-union guy. I'm, whatever else. I'm a working man and whatever else, and I always vote Democrat. I'm just not going to vote Democrat in this state, so I'm going to go someplace else and vote Democrat.
I know. Well, then that was the fear when it came to like Texas and whatnot, I think, because you noticed there.
It's a very valid fear.
Well, what I found interesting is it's parallel for most states when you have all the big cities, urban areas and whatnot versus, suburbs or rural areas. And the Democrats will only concentrate where the most people are. So we could have, every single town in the state of New Hampshire, or, you could even look at Massachusetts, that would vote Republican, but you would have all the college kids. That's why, in my opinion, I don't think college kids should be allowed to vote in the states they go to college to. That's a controversial opinion, yes. But you know what? They are mature enough to be able to call their town hall and vote absentee. I
don't think you should be able to vote in a state unless you've lived there for 10 years.
Well, I don't know if I would agree with that. If you are living and I don't think, to me, college is temporary living. If you permanently reside in the state, then fine. But if you are going to college, you have all these college kids that come in. I don't care what anybody says. I want someone to prove to me that are they voting in the state they're going to college, and are they voting and getting that absentee ballot at home? There's really no way to double check that. And they can drive a lot of like the local elections, the federal elections. That's where you get into the issue when it comes to the top line voting. Who's doing the top line voting?
Well, Diane, think about this.
No.
You don't have to worry about that with the 16-year-olds. Once the 16-year-olds are allowed to vote, they live right there.
Well, my kid is 16 years old. If someone came up to her and said, "Oh, I'll give you a beer if you'll vote this way," she would have been like, "Okay." This is insane what they're trying to do. The utter desperation when they say they want 16-year-olds to vote is crazy.
It's mushy brains, right? They always know. What's the old saying? If you're if you're not a Democrat, under 30, you have no heart. If you're still a Democrat over 30, you have no brain.
I think it's the age is lowered.
Yeah, but you do get this. They know that it's easy to get young impressionable brains to go. Oh, we feel sorry for the government should pay for that, right? Anyway. Well,
but the thing is, I feel so much for these poor kids that are in college that are trying to start, young Republican groups or whatnot. And, you have the colleges and the faculty that are completely against them. And they're attacking their careers or their grades, if you will. And I think, especially one of those professors that I think writes all the time, isn't it Seth? Is it Seth Abramson that's at UNH? He is. He's an idiot. And I will rant all the time that, it's our tax dollars that are paying for this idiot to open up his flap. I would just like to go to UNH and say, "Listen, you piece of crap, shut your face." I'm pretty sure it's Seth Abramson. But anyways, we've talked about this, but we really got to also talk about United Airlines.
Yeah, we started Kamala. Where was Kamala? And it's 48 minutes later.
I know. We still don't know where she is.
No, we don't. We don't know where she is. But she drives a lot of conversation about how stupid Democrats are.
Yes, but United Airlines. Let me just tell you, I will just say that all of this equal opportunity shit, and that's what it is. Because I don't care if you're a man, woman, freaking robot or whatever, as long as you can fly that friggin' plane and get me from point A to point B. Don't try and tell me that a woman or transgender or whatever is a better pilot than a man. I don't care who flies it.
Mm-hmm.
But this pandering is just
robots
ridiculous.
Actually good job of flying. What you probably don't realize is that a robot is flying your plane almost every time you're on an airline. And I'm not kidding.
Autopilot.
Well, it's not just autopilot anymore. It's more positive control. They actually, autopilot kind of gives you this idea of, I keep the wings level and the nose straight, right? Actually, these things are completely, dialed into their navigation systems. They, change altitudes. They make, turns where they're supposed to. They basically fly the entire route of the plane. The pilot may take over just before landing, but in some places they don't even do that. Some places, well, no, because these automatic landing systems are perfectly capable of landing the plane, minus the pilot. And so, it's
so all those movies like Airplane and everything back in the day when you used to remember the movies Airplane?
Rock. You want me to blow rock? Yeah. So, but all that aside, I obviously took United to task last night on Twitter, and said I think they should lose their Part 121, which is the FAR, Federal Aviation Regulations that govern airlines. And I basically said they should lose their Part 121 for even saying this, for even stating that this is a thing. But I will say this: they've been very careful about what they said. And if you look at it very carefully, they get to have their cake and eat it too. They get to win the we're woke, we're bringing in 50% of women and minorities, and at the same time, none of those people are guaranteed a job. So if you look what they've done here, they formed this new thing called United Aviant, which is I guess a flight school, flight training process for new airline pilot candidates to go through. They've partnered with JP Morgan Chase to be able to finance this, right? So now you have more people that are going to go into debt. So anybody can show up, and but they're just saying 50% of the 5,000 people that they bring into the school are going to be women and people of color. Okay, that's where they're hedging their bet, because what's going to happen is they still, at the end of the day, they're not guaranteeing those people are going to get jobs. But they are very happy to let the left and let the rest of the country think that's what they're saying. And look, I think it is wrong what they're saying. They are implying, and look, I'm not going to get on United. They're implying that they're going to be hiring pilots based on color. And right. when I first read that, I was like, okay, they're going to be hiring 5,000 pilots over the next however many years. And then I thought, wait a minute, they're not hiring 5,000 pilots. That's ridiculous. So they claim they're going to be hiring, made it look like they're going to be hiring 5,000 pilots, 2,500 of which are going to be women and people of color. And my first question is, well, is white guy number 2501 a worse pilot than the top 2,500 that they chose of women and people of color? If he's not, then they need to lose their Part 121 because they're not putting safety as their absolute first agenda. But they have caged this very carefully. They've said, we're bringing in these people for training. But they are more than happy to let the left think, and the right mostly, including me, that they are hiring pilots. They're not necessarily hiring pilots. It will be interesting to see what happens out of this. Because at the end of the day, let's say that they have these 5,000 and 2,500 of them are women and people of color. But at the end of the day, only 30% of the graduates that end up getting jobs are women or people of color. They're going to have a tough time explaining this. They're really going to have a tough time explaining it. If the rest of them, if it doesn't come out at 50% at the end of people that all passed, and by the way, it's not a cakewalk. All right. You walk in there cold and you're not a pilot already. It's not a cakewalk. Even if you are a pilot already, it's not a cakewalk to go in and become an airline pilot. So I'm sorry. This is not, no matter what kind of schooling they give these people. Some people have an aptitude for flying. Some don't. Some are able to retain all that information so that they're able to pass their orals and practicals, and some can't. And they're going to be in a really tough pickle if at least 50% of those 2,500 or so women and people of color do not end up in that final group of people that actually do end up getting hired by them. They're going to have a tough time to explain, and I guarantee you they're just going to hope everybody forgot, and they're going to kind of live off of their fame and woke wisdom of this setup that they did in the first place, which is honestly just going to end up with a whole bunch of people that aren't going to make it through the program, but are going to still owe JP Morgan Chase a bunch of money.
Well, let me ask you this, okay? All of these years, we kept hearing United Airlines is equal opportunity employer, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. People aren't looking at this and saying, oh, we're going to hire 50% women. Why haven't you been doing that all along?
Well, but that's not part of equal opportunity. Equal opportunity.
No, but if you have a man and a woman that can't be not hired because of your sex, why all these years haven't they been recruiting women and people of color?
Is a look, you can recruit all you want. Aviation is kind of like being a doctor or a lawyer or just about anything else. It requires a level of dedication and interest that cannot just be something that you just go, oh, okay, I guess I'll try that, right? Nobody puts up with all the years. And I'm not, by the way, that wasn't anything having to do with race. It just has to do with whether or not people want to do it. And,
exactly.
And you have to have people that want to do it. And I can't explain why traditionally there's always been a lot more men that have wanted to fly than women. As for race, I have no clue about that. I don't know, why there's been more white pilots than black pilots. And if somebody wants to try and make a claim that that's because they haven't had the opportunity, I totally disagree with it. That may have been true in 1940. That is not true in 2020 or 2021 as it is. They have the opportunities. They have the opportunities to go to school. They have the opportunity to go to college. They have the opportunity to, join the military. They're especially these days where everyone's trying to make everything as equal as possible. So I'm not buying for a second that it's a lack of opportunity. It may be a lack of interest. It may be a lack of the way that people are sort of brought up from an aspirational standpoint. Look, my squadron had adopted a little town over in West Virginia. I won't even say the name of the town because that would be mean. We had adopted this little town over in West Virginia, and we just used to do that, right? So we'd go on cruise and we'd send emails, or at that time letters and things, right? Like written on stone back in the dark ages, back to back to the kids, and the kids would send stuff to us, and they'd kind of follow our ship along on a big map on the wall and things like that. So we adopted this school over in West Virginia, and I flew a plane over there to go see these kids. And so, landed at this little small podunk airport that they had, and brought some of the kids out there to the plane and put them in the plane. And there was this one kid, and he was sitting in the cockpit, and I was kind of over his shoulder, kind of pointing stuff out to him. And I said to him, he was all like big eyes, right? Amazed and everything else. And I said, what do you think? Is something you want to do? You right? You want to, maybe go fly planes for the Navy or something? And he was like, oh no, I could never do this. And I was like, what? I obviously was saying to him, "Oh, sure you could, absolutely." But it amazed me that was his first take. This was a white kid, by the way. This was not a black kid. This was not saying this is not a girl even. This was not saying this is someone in some other demographic. This is your basic white kid who's been raised to believe that he can't accomplish something. So if you keep telling people that they are victims of everything, if you keep telling people that they have to have special treatment in order to get ahead in this world, you're basically telling them the other side of it is they can't accomplish it if they don't. And when you're raised with that entire thing, I think that comes into play 100% in where they try to achieve lofty goals.
Well, you're always brought up to chase your dreams.
Yeah.
But what? What'd you say, Lou?
Oh, that's stuff.
Well, I guess that I probably got in about 10 words to Hammy's 5,000.
Hooey.
Anyways, we're going to be back next week at 9:00. Hammy, are you joining Jody and I?
No.
Yes.
No. Did you?
Yeah. I mean. Yes, I believe. Do we have Michael next week?
Oh, yes, I am coming back in.
No, you're going to be on every week because we're changing. remember, guys, you need to vote. I'm going to put a poll up on the red wine on what we should name the show, whether it's going to be The Red Wine Gets Hammered or Hammered in Wine. So look for the poll. I would like to see people voting on it.
And dancing on it.
Well, and Hammy's going to be wearing his kilt skirt. Just remember, don't look up if you're a lady. Anyways, everybody, I hope you have a great week. You can find me at DMB 1031. Hammy, where can they find you?
E2 Pilot.
Excellent. E2 Pilot. Everybody, I hope you have a great, fantastic week, and we'll see you next week. Thank you all.